not locked in here with you. That's it! You're locked in here with me!
Welcome to an Independence Day edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name is Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker, licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. I'm feeling good today, folks. And I don't think it's just the venti mocha. Skinny mocha. I'm trying to be good. I'm doing the keto thing. Skinny mocha. Here you go. Here is the very first priceless tip that you will receive. If you're trying to do the keto thing, and trust me, I know for some people it sounds nuts, but if you do the keto thing, if you stick to it, it will work. I just want to tell you that. All right. Anyway, if you want your keto mocha from Starbucks, you need to ask for a skinny mocha with half heavy cream, half water. I know that sounds odd, but it seems to work. Anyway, see, not even real estate related. You've already benefited today. Who knows? Who knows where we'll end up? Let's see. So, as always, the best way to reach out is to ping me at the website. Go to therebelbroker.com. That is therebelbroker.com, and that's me. Has been, it always has been, and hopefully it always will be. If you don't want to do that, let's say your digits or your keyboard foo is weak today, or maybe you have one finger available to do the work you need to do today. You could just text the word Rebel Broker to the number 44222. That's text the word Rebel Broker to 44222 and achieve the same thing. There may actually be more typing involved in that than the keyboard option, but I don't know. I don't know where else to go with that. Other interesting things. I am expanding sort of how I embrace the whole partner advertising thing. So you're going to see an interesting blend of new advertisers on the website. So if you head over to therebelbroker.com and any of those ads tickle your fancy, I'm gearing it towards two things. One, the usual stuff where Google detects stuff you're interested in because of what you've done and then shows you an ad I have no control over. And then other stuff that I've looked at that sounded kind of interesting. And that could be real estate related, which obviously would be the first choice, or anything that sounds like a good opportunity for you to build your passive income, right? We've talked about side hustles and other ways for you to get income while you're still doing the full-time thing. So I'll also include things like that, because that's also a constantly evolving world that I thought you folks might enjoy. So feel free to jump into that if any of those ads tickle your fancy. Today, we shall discuss a couple of things. I don't think I'll start with the first one. The first one is kind of sexy. It's from Realtor.com. I always spend a little extra time mentally juggling data I get from Realtor.com. And the reason for that is my philosophy of understand what horse a specific individual or company has in a race, right? If something has a vested interest in things being seen a certain way, then you can typically count on that organization putting that kind of a spin on it, right? So, and that's not just a real estate thing. Whether you're buying car insurance or life insurance or you're buying a car or whatever, if you're at the Ford dealership, you're obviously going to hear, everything you're going to hear is how wonderful Fords are. And you're going to hear the exact same thing if you're over at the Kia dealership or the Honda dealership or the Chevy dealership. So, you know, it's sort of a life skill, not so much a real estate skill, to just understand where the bias lives, right? But this is interesting because this one's sort of just based on data, and that's what I like. I like data. I don't like things that get sort of manipulated, juggled, and twisted in order to try to prove a specific point. We're going to talk about that probably in the last half of the show, and this is their hot list. Yeah, the hot list of communities in the United States. And it is very different Kind of, sort of. We'll talk about it. This is one of those lists that comes out every year, or I think they actually do it every month. I look at it usually quarterly. But this is going to give us the hottest markets right now. And it's always good to see this stuff because it's usually based on numbers we can pin down. And this is no exception. These guys typically are doing things like growth in price, robustness of the communities that these folks are in, that type of stuff. So we're going to talk about that one in a moment. But a few other tidbits that I think are essential to understanding marketplaces. And last time we talked a little bit about picking your canaries in the coal mine, right? And what that actually means. And for me, that I have a couple of canaries in my local coal mine, but Gilroy is really one of my main ones. And we talked about an article that came out not long before the last show relating to declines, right? People on average dropping prices. Now, something else I'm going to start doing, and to give you a little bit of incentive relating to the show, or incentive to join the Rebel Underground, right? Because that's texting the word Rebel Broker to the number 44222. That's joining the Rebel Underground. You can also join the Rebel Ground at the website. There's a big red button that says "Join the Underground." I'm gonna give you an incentive to join the Underground. Believe it or not, it's one of those lists where I actually get more people complaining I don't send them enough stuff rather than the other option, which is I send too much stuff. So what from now on, in addition to releasing a show, the show notes, kind of any thoughts, afterthoughts I have, or images that I want to share relating to that, I'm going to share with folks in the Rebel Underground. I am not going to guarantee that 100% of shows get a follow-up email to the Underground. But what I will promise is that when I am sharing stuff that is best understood graphically, I'm going to follow that up with a message to the Rebel Underground. Okay? I swear it. I will do that. And also, I mentioned last week about doing a sort of review of the real ground truth here in Silicon Valley. Now, some of you may say, well, poop. Not everybody says poop, but for those who do, why do I care about Silicon Valley? Here is why. It's the same reason I care about Phoenix or LA or Miami or New York. Those aren't my markets either, but I consider those to be interesting markets that indicate directions, larger directions and trends of real estate, which I think is good for you too. And I honestly believe that Silicon Valley is a pivotal marketplace. If you start to see things taking a dump there, think about the number of people who've invested in that marketplace, and don't fool yourself into thinking that they've only invested there. If they've invested in other markets, it's gonna negatively affect them more broadly, and could cause them to take actions or do things that would also potentially impact your local real estate market if they're heavily invested there. But one thing about Silicon Valley is it rarely tends to be the absolute first community to start taking the hits. Even when we saw the big hits in 2007 and 8, there were a couple of communities ahead of the Silicon Valley area that kind of gave us a clue. Gilroy being a good example. Some people include Gilroy in the quote-unquote Silicon Valley umbrella. Those people are wrong, by the way. I guess any place where somebody lives far away from, but then commutes, I guess. But that's really out there. Calling Gilroy a bedroom community for Silicon Valley is tough. I know people who do that, but kind of, if you want to go with the mainstream, if you want to go with the majority, you really can't go much further south than Morgan Hill, which is my town. And then there's another town out there, not one of my favorite towns, but another one that's kind of a canary in the coal mine, but not reliably, is called Hollister. Not a fan of Hollister. And I apologize to anybody out there who loves Hollister. Here's one thing I'll say nice about Hollister. One, I rarely have to go there. Two, some nice art. There is some very nice early 20th century examples of architecture. A little bit more so in the 40s and 50s styles. Like if you like craftsman stuff, there's some really good examples of that. And then there's a lot more examples of crap that most people, wouldn't bother writing a book about in terms of keeping track of it. So anyway, all right. Sorry, I don't know why I decided to go. It's got to be the caffeine, right? I'm halfway through my venti. Enough of it is now in my bloodstream, seething and rushing to my brain. That must be the cause. I'm also burning a calendar. I'm also burning a candle as I do this show. And I don't know if you've ever gone and gotten a massage. I don't know. How do I even get away with talking about this stuff on a real estate show? So, because you should treat yourself right every once in a while, right? So you go someplace, you pay some money, you lay down on a table, and somebody rubs all of the stress out, right? This candle smells exactly like what those rooms smell like, and it's a peppermint eucalyptus candle. I guess I do know where this came from. I bought a pack of 12 of these things for open houses. See, I knew I'd turn it into a real estate thing. So there's several tactics for the open house, right? There is, and I don't think I would use this one. This is actually a scent I don't think I would use. It was a variety pack, and this is a very low energy smell, so I'm not sure I would use this one. But ones I've used are like baking bread scented candles and chocolate chip cookie scented, because that's the studies say that those are the kind of smells that sell houses. I actually had a candle once. I bought it once. I was never able to find it again. It was supposedly put out the fresh paint smell, because that's the other smell, right? You walk into a house and it has that fresh paint smell, and you instantly think wonderful things about the house. Oh, great, they've painted or they've remodeled or they've done good things, whatever. Anyhow, okay. Oh, you know what I will do? I realize that my audience is very far-flung, and I know I have a few local listeners, but I wanted to clue you into something that is, again, about the listing I mentioned that has passive income that's up on what I call Finley Ridge. Now, if you want to check this property out, go to soldbyrobert.com/homes. There's a full page. It's got the 360 tour. It's got all the photos. And there's a very in-depth discussion of what the passive income is. Now, the passive income is a monthly check that you will get for $2,200 while you own the home. It's awesome. It is super unique. It is the best kind of passive income, and I think I talked about it 2 or 3 shows ago. But we have a window of opportunity. The folks who own that property have found the perfect property for them in Colorado. But in order for that to work, this home has to be in contract by Sunday. So it was normally listed at $1.2 million. We're currently it started at 1.2. We're currently at 1.149. And until Sunday, my sellers will accept an offer of 1.1 million if we can get into contract and get into either a typical length contract or obviously anything faster than that. So I thought I'd throw that out there. If you or anyone you know is interested in that kind of a proposition, if you haven't looked at the property, I suggest you do. It's over 21 acres, 1,800 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. This passive income, a huge chunk of the lot is currently usable for whatever you want to do, whether you want to add an income suite onto the property or you want to have animals grazing or riding horses, whatever you want to do, your options are pretty wide open. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there too. But again, remember, this is only an opportunity that goes till Sunday. After Sunday, we're going to continue to market it at the 1.149 number. All right, so home prices fall in Southern California for the first time in 7 years. I'm sure that if you can all count back, the last time that if you go back 7 years, we've sort of been in this weird cycle of growth for about 7 years. I always love it when people give good news that's like, no, our numbers are even higher than they were like last year. Well, of course they are, right? That's what a growth cycle means. But when you start to see things like this, where things are going down, that becomes an interesting notation. So Southern Californian median home prices dipped slightly in March from a year earlier, the first annual decrease since 2012, and a sign of a remarkable downshift from the once sizzling regional housing market. Now, it was only a 0.1% drop. It was reported by CoreLogic, but it means prices for the 6-county region were essentially flat year over year. We talked a little bit about this last time, and I think those are numbers we need to keep in mind as we move forward in our markets and try to figure out, where are we? I mean, is this the time where we need to sell? And for my listeners in Gilroy, there are indicators. And again, if you find your local Gilroy, right? A community that you think is on the verge of a decline, something that's on. We talked about population centers before, right, where people want to live, and then you draw a line from that to you, and then you see the next city down, and you find that community that can be your canary in the coal mine. If you're a listener to my show from Gilroy, and I know there are a few of you because you've called me, and some of you have even talked to me in the local Starbucks line. If you want to sell your property, do it now. I honestly believe that I've checked the numbers, and you can still get pretty close to peak numbers in Gilroy right now with the right property. There's going to have to be some good marketing behind your move, but I think that this is an opportunity for you to sell at a high. And even if you were to, and this isn't just me saying you should do it. This is the kind of stuff I'm doing myself. If you were to sell and then just rent in Gilroy for a year, you could probably buy your same home back for $100,000 less. I don't think we're going to see the drops we did last time. You're not going to see 50% drops in housing values like we did in 2007. In fact, in Gilroy, there were some homes that were down 60, 70%. That's not going to happen this time. Why? Because we didn't build as much as we built last time. So I don't think you're going to get that happening. But I do think if you want to leverage your money the most and you're willing to jump around and move, this is going to be the time to do it. So whether you call me, I'd be happy to help you get your home sold for the best possible price, for the best possible terms. Fantastic. Happy to help you. You have an agent you trust and you would rather go to than me. Fantastic. That's also good. I only want to work with people who want to work with me. But I do strongly suggest you look into it. I think that these are marketplaces where folks need to make some very savvy decisions right now in a way that's designed to deal with proximal things that are about to come down the pike. Another example of that, let me just see if I can pull this up real quick. According to the good folks over at CNBC, I think, is this just CNBC or is this something else? Anyway, quote, the headline is, housing is providing another in a line of troubling signs pointing to an economic downturn. Declining home sales are consistent with the possibility of a late 2019 or early 2020 recession, according to St. Louis Fed economist William Emmons. And he actually said this in a report. So this isn't something he just said during a press conference or casually over drinks. His belief is that this is going to happen. The analysis overlays home sales over 12 and 36-month periods to look at trends that have held up during the previous three recessions. Emmons said a recession, if it hits, would be much less severe than during the Great Recession that exploded in 2008. So I tend to agree with that opinion in terms of the potential impact. Timing is another thing. I have in the past made stabs at estimating when things are and aren't going to go well. And the last time I did it, I missed it by a mile. So I'm not going to do that again this time. But what I can point to is say something is going to happen, because a lot of the things that we've talked about that are quote unquote pivot points have absolutely happened. So there's that to consider. All right, next, framing lumber prices down 35% year over year. Now, why do I give a damn about lumber prices? Well, it's the supply and demand equation. If I know that lumber prices are going down, one of two things has happened. Either a ton of lumber has come onto the market, or there's not enough people buying the lumber in order for those prices to stay up. Now, if there aren't enough buyers for lumber, that would indicate construction is down. Now, the one random element in this particular equation is China. China obviously is not buying as much lumber from us as they did before. That's a number that obviously draws it down. But from what I'm seeing, and if I look at the domestic numbers are down as well. Fewer homes being built equals fewer products on the market, which equals problems, right? So another thing that sort of contributes to the overall concern. And finally, as if I haven't done it enough, I realize I did this last time. Suburbs are cool again, and younger generations swoop in. And I love how they talk like something had changed. There was never I really want to live in these little houses, or I really want to live in this little freaking condo or apartment downtown. Sometimes it was a thing I want to be able to walk to work, and that's fine. That's always been a thing. But so much of what has driven real estate has not been what people want. It has been what people have had to settle for. And I think too many folks in this business didn't see that or don't see that. And as soon as opportunities present themselves that even give them the slightest advantage. And let me give you an example. If someone is currently renting an apartment or doing something like that, and they can get a similar accommodation just a little bit out of town in the suburbs or whatever else, that is no less or more likely to happen now than it did before. The only thing is the circumstance. I've always argued that if people were able to simply get what they wanted, we would not have seen a lot of these movements towards smaller things or apartment living or whatever else. But that disconnect between understanding what was a choice of complete utility versus desire, it kind of amazes me. But they're talking as if this is all new stuff. The only thing that's ever kept some of my younger buyers from buying something in the suburbs was price. It was never, I don't want to live there. It was, I can't live there because I can't afford it, right? Or I have to find something else that's not as desirable, but something I can handle. So understanding that from a standpoint of finding things for your clients as a real estate person is a big deal, but understanding where markets are going and how markets are likely to shift based on that information is critical for an investor. If you bought, and if you were listening to my show, I sure hope you didn't. If you bought into this small thing where you decided to invest in making much smaller footprint properties, or that was going to be your thing, you're going to do the 400 square foot, the 500 square foot, the 600 square foot thing. I sure hope you didn't, because that's not what people do when they want to. And if they do it because they've romanticized in their head, because they've read a headline that says how awesome it is, within 6 months, they're going to be looking to leave your property. And in a marketplace that shifts, as soon as affordability gets to the point where they can handle it, even if it's going to cost them more money, here's the thing, you're always at a disadvantage as the landlord of that property, because if they have another option that's exactly the same price as yours, that's 1,000 square feet instead of that 500 or 600, you will lose every time, right? On the desirability scale. And we're not talking about affordability. We're not talking about just what people have to deal with, but what they want to deal with. You will lose every time. And you have to be able to anticipate where your market's going to be going on these scores, because you're going to end up with a vacant property that you can't get filled for a really long time if we start to see a change in other elements of the marketplace relating to what it costs to secure housing. Okay. We're going to take a quick break right here, but when we come back, we are going to talk about what the folks at Realtor.com say are the hottest housing markets. I don't know if I buy it. We'll see. Stick with me. We'll go through it together. Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right. Aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to go ahead and dip our toes and wiggle them vigorously in the satisfying pool of communities that the folks at Realtor Magazine think are oh so spicy. We'll go ahead and I'm just going to go from first to maybe we'll go to the 20th. I'm not sure here. I like the numbers, and unfortunately in the actual article from Realtor Magazine, they didn't actually include the sexy numbers, but I got hold of the sexy numbers because that's the kind of guy I am. The Midwest and Northeast are where the action is concentrated as we go into the summer, according to the director of economic research for Realtor.com. Rochester, New York topped the Realtor.com list of hottest housing markets in May, the first time for the city to emerge in the number one spot to the list. Quote, Rochester's a hidden gem, and people are starting to become aware of it. There's a quality of life that exists here. It's easy to commute places. It's easy to walk to school. Yay. Okay. We'll go ahead and jump into it here, but I'm going to switch now to my actual numbers and see what we've got here to make it interesting. Now, I'm upset when they don't include data on a particular market that's more penetrating. But let's go ahead and hit the first one. So we'll talk about Rochester, New York. The rank in May of 2019 is number 1. The rank in May of 2018 was 6, and the median days on market there is 31. And so that's, in terms of just understanding how long it takes for things to get sold, that's where it's at. In terms of other data, let's see here. They take us to Realtor.com and they show us a list view of homes currently listed for sale. I'm seeing a 3-bed, 1-bath. Is it just a West Coast thing? And whenever I see a 3-bed, 1-bath, I'm like, why in the world would you have a 1-bath, 3-bedroom home? Does that? I mean, that tells me there's no master bath, right? That there's just a bath kind of in the hallway. That doesn't seem like a good call to me. Anyway, that home was $189,000. So in terms of affordability, Rochester's looking pretty good. The next step would be to find out what homes of that size and configuration rent for in that area, so for you to start doing your math. Here's another one, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. Makes a little bit more sense. At least that means there's a bathtub or a shower somewhere in one bathroom. And then something a little bit more rational, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths for $244,000. Let's see, 2-bed, 2-bath, $105,000. You need to look a little bit more at this marketplace, but those are some good prices. Here's one for, that's got to be wrong. No, a house for sale for $59,000 that is in Rochester, New York, with 5 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. Why is that house $60,000? Good Lord. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that right now. But in any event, that's our number 1 home on this list. If you are in New York, maybe this is something you want to look at. You'd want to look at the historical data and find out if you're jumping on board while it's in decline or whether it's flat. Or, you got to analyze those numbers to figure out if you're jumping onto a train that's about to crash versus continue on with at least a reliable future for you. And of course, as always, analyze it from 2 perspectives. You want to analyze it from the monthly income perspective. I know investors who are willing to purchase properties and have negative cash flow because they're banking on market velocity, meaning that if I buy this property for $1 million today, in a year it's going to be worth $1.2 million, right? That would be a dicey bet today. So when I talk to investors today, I am suggesting everybody focus on having positive cash flow, because if you don't, I think you're making a mistake. And here's a good example, right? I was looking, one of my strategies is potentially to buy a multi-unit property. And my standards are one of the units, and I'm looking at everything from duplexes up to quads, is one of them has to be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, right? Because that's where I would live. I would rent or sell my current home, move into that, and move on, right? And then rent the other units. But when I do the math, even when you do the math, and to be fair, if there is such a thing, when you're evaluating multifamily units, right? You're not doing the whole, well, gosh, this is an emotional thing. It's about the numbers. Whoever's trying to sell that to you understands that you are thinking in investor thoughts. And what I find amazing is properties that I'm looking at have, at the price they're asking, horrible rates of return, and cash on cash return is negative for 100% of the ones I've looked at. So for instance, I looked at one that they wanted $1.6 million. In order for it to be positive cash flow, it would need to be more like 1.1, right? $1 million. And I'm perfectly willing to make an offer on that kind of a property at that price point. But what amazes me is that we are at a period where more than ever, I'm seeing far more emphasis on prices that feel a certain way rather than are supported by any data. And even if you use the typically over optimistic numbers provided in the listing for an investment property, it just doesn't it doesn't pencil out. The numbers just don't make sense. So make sure you're doing that kind of work on your own as well. All right, next. Wow, we haven't even done number 2 yet. Apologize. Fort Wayne, Indiana is number 2 on our list. It was ranking 21st on the same list a year ago. Median days on market is 34. If we take a look at what's currently available in that marketplace, I'm seeing some very interesting options. I see a 3-bed, 2-bath in Fort Wayne for $320,000. I see another home, judging by the outside photo, maybe in a slightly dicier part of town, 3-bed, 1-bath. I just, unless I can add a bathroom really easily and make it make sense, I'm not buying this house. But it's only $84,000. So that's a thing. Here we go. 3 beds, 1.5 baths, 2,000 square feet, $139,900. And that looks like a nice house. Here's one, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, $99,000, 4-bed, 2.5 bath for $258,000. So some good options here and a wide range of prices. So another market that might be something worth your time. Let's just scan the list here. Do I see any really mind-blowing surprises? All right. No, well, the market I've been thinking about. Anyway. All right. Next is Lafayette, West Lafayette, Indiana. Number 3 on the list was number 30 last year at the same time, and it's got 31 days on the market. If we take a quick peek at what is available there, again, interesting price point. The barrier to entry is not super high. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, $149,000. This looks like your typical suburban home. This one is on Blakely Drive in North Lafayette, Indiana. It'd be interesting again to get some numbers on what things rent for in that area. But I'm willing to bet you could probably get some halfway decent cash flow going on some of these properties. Next, Boston, Cambridge, Newton, Mass, New Hampshire. Number 4 on the list this time around. Number 2 on the list same time last year. 30 days is the average days on market. And here we get to some higher stuff. Yeah, the ones that pop up here there's that can't be a 2-bedroom, 1-house. Oh, okay. It looks like it's a condo. So there's a picture of a gigantic looking house, but apparently it's been subdivided into condo units. $699,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,000 square foot townhouse condo in this beautiful home. I love the look of it. It's got that great rounded front to it. Another condo, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,300 square feet for $300,000. Looks like a walk-up. Here's a house for sale for $4,800,000 on Worcester, number 5 Worcester Square in Boston. No, thank you. 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo. And again, it looks like another house that's been chopped up into smaller chunks for $449,000. So I'm going to call it high barrier to entry for this particular market. So maybe doing really well, but not maybe for the entry-level person. Next, and I'm guessing this one's going to be pretty good, Midland, Texas is number 5 on our list. It was number 1 a year ago. Interesting that it has gone down. It's the first one on our list that has done that. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad choice, but it means that it'd be interesting to pay attention to the numbers and why they have done what they have done. And we're seeing the same kind of thing. 2-bed, 2-bath, $250,000. 3-bed, 2-bath, $289,000. 3-bed, 2-bath, $293,000. A 1-acre lot for $50,000, depending on where that sucker is. That could be a great opportunity. 4-bed, 2-bath, $345,000. So slightly higher barrier to entry. A few that sound kind of sexy. Here's a 3-bed, 2-bath for $230,000 on West Cuthbert Avenue in Midland, Texas. I want to know a little bit more about what the hell happens in Midland, Texas. If I'm not mistaken, I used to have a family member who lived near Midland, Texas, and we visited them, and nothing happens in Midland, Texas. So I really don't know what to say about that. Next, Columbus, Ohio. This is one that has been on lists before. This one definitely rings familiar. It's number 6 on the list this year. It was number 5 on the list last year. Another one that's gone down a little bit. But Columbus, Ohio, I think was on our list of highest returns, highest cash-on-cash returns for investors for rental properties. And I'm seeing some amazing prices. I'm going to skip the homes that look like people are selling crack from the windows. Let's see here. All right, here's one that looks very nice. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, $179,000 on Half Hill Way in Columbus, Ohio. Here's a beautiful house. This is nice. 3 beds, 3 baths, 3,000 square feet, $549,000. Super pretty. Really nice porch area. It's kind of a wraparound looking thing. Very nice. Let's see what else. Anything else? This is a super trendy looking condo, 2-bed, 2-bath, 245,000. So maybe there could be possibilities here. You'd want to find out what makes sense in terms of where people are living, where people are desiring to be in terms of jobs, that kind of stuff. But it looks like one worth your time. Number 7, and we're just going to take this up to number 10 here. Manchester, Nashua, New Hampshire, number 7 on the list this time around. Number 17 last year, 37 days median price on market. And let's see, how's it looking? Not bad. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 295,000. I'm seeing stuff ranging from that price down to 229 up to 489. Well, that's a 7-bedroom home for 489. So, mid 200s up to 300, I think is about the price here. And here's a bizarre listing. It's a multifamily home with 16 baths and 6,638 square feet. And the lot is only 300 square feet bigger than the house. So I have no idea what to say about this place, but they want 1.12 million, and it's on 499 Beach Street in Manchester. So who knows, man? If it's got 16 baths, doesn't list bedrooms, maybe it's just one big giant room with cots. I don't know. But if you could find out how many people that would suit and how many people you could get to rent that joint, maybe that 1.12 million makes sense. Next on the list, Spokane Valley, Washington, another one that has been on our list before. Number 8 this month, number 15 at the same time last year, with 31 days on the market is the average right now, or the median right now. And we see, again, an interesting range, everything from a really large property that's got over 25 acres for 1.1 million, all the way down to what looks like a pretty typical house with a garage or whatnot for 192. I'm seeing stuff at 299, 450. So a lot of variety there, and some elements that are going to be not a huge pinch on the pocketbook in terms of barriers to entry. Next, and our first community that comes to us from California, which I find interesting. Remember, this is a list that typically gets dominated by California, and isn't now. This particular home or city is coming in at rank number 9, ranked number 35 last time around. And that's Yuba City. A variety of homes here. I'm seeing a house for sale for 175 that looks like it should only be selling for 175. Goofy looking place. What's something that's more mainstream? Here's a mainstream home, 3-bed, 2-bath, 349. So a slightly higher barrier to entry, what it looks like on some of these. Here's another one, 384. It's looking to me like if you went in there and went aggressive, you're probably looking like you're going to have to spend between 300 and 380 on something in an area where you could get it rented on a regular basis. Next, let's go to number 10 on our list, which is Pueblo, Colorado. And again, this is the first community in Colorado. And if you'll remember in past lists like this, several areas in Colorado were coming up. It's number 10 on the list, number 37 last year, and 35 median days to get that sucker sold. And median prices, or at least some example prices from that marketplace, look far more friendly to the first-time investor. I'm seeing some attractive homes here for $285,000 that are 3-bed, 2-bath. Another one for $309,000. Here's one for $299,000 that's 3-bed, 2 baths. $249,900 for a 4-bed, 2-bath. So I'm seeing some good opportunities here in terms of low barriers to entry. Here's a 3-bed, 1.5 bath for $149,000 in Worcester, Mass. So good stuff. All right. Now, just to quickly run, I'm not going to go into the details of some of these others, but some of these are interesting. So, and of course, my eye always gets drawn to California ones. And this is a community we've talked about before. Number 12 on the list is Sacramento, Roseville, Arden Arcade, California. It was number 18, so it's actually gone up the list, 35 days on market. I actually like Roseville a lot. Sacramento has some dicey options within the city limits of Sacramento, but Roseville is one of those ones that tends to present some interesting opportunities. But if you look back, it was hard hit in the last downturn. But the reason it was hard hit was because of the growth. So much building. If you want to talk about a poster child for the overbuilding of the ramp up to 2007 and 2008, Roseville is it. There were brand spanking new homes that had never been lived in. that literally sat there for almost a decade unoccupied. It was decimated in terms of the downturn, but that hasn't happened this time. There hasn't been this crazy growth that we saw before. Vallejo Fairfields comes in as number 15 on the list. No, thank you. One of our favorites that we've talked about before, Boise City, Idaho, comes in at number 17. It was number 8 last year, so it's declined. My on the ground feel for Boise is still high. I still get tons of people who tell me they are moving to places like Boise, Idaho from here. So an interesting list, I think, of property areas to consider. At the very least, use these cities as opportunities for you to practice your property analysis skills from the desk. It doesn't mean you have to go visit them or drive out to them. A whole bunch of you learning from this is simply going to be you going and poking through, learning what you can, and trying to become knowledgeable on what makes sense. And that could be as simple as you deciding to click to favorite it, to heart it on Trulia or Zillow. And then in the exact same neighborhood, you figuring out what properties are renting for what. And you can track that. I usually will make a note in a spreadsheet of properties that are for rent, and I'll also favorite them as a property. And then when they disappear, you're going to get an email that says this property is no longer for rent. Well, odds are it rented, right? So you want to know that. You want to calculate how many days on the market did that thing have. So if in this marketplace, if I bought a home with similar square footage, similar improvements, beds, baths, whatever you want to count, then you can get an idea of A, what you can rent it for, and B, how long it would take you to find a good renter. So use these techniques and without even thinking I'm going to buy a house today to do this, do it for say 3 months. And at the end of that period of time, if you feel good about your skills, but you've decided you're not interested in that particular market, great. Focus on a market you are interested in and start developing those skills there. But you're going to get familiarity, you're going to get comfort, and you're going to start to be able to intelligently decide what you want to do in a certain marketplace. All right, folks. As always, I appreciate your attention. I know that your time is valuable, just like mine, and the goal is always to leave you with more value on the table than you've spent in time listening to the show. Hope we've achieved that today. Thanks again for listening. I'll talk to y'all next time.